y'all, Claudia with Crazy Island Studios. How you guys doing today? I'm late. It's only like the third Freedom Journal Friday ever, and I'm late. I don't even know how to say I'm sorry. So we'll talk about that in a minute, though. We're going to get started right away. And I'm actually going to work on the cover today of my journal. I don't know, because I'm tired of looking at the plain brown cover. So we're going to see what we can get to stick to this. Seems like a good idea. I do know, because it is a soft cover, I don't know, I'm just worried about the whole paint cracking and stuff, so I might reinforce it by doing some collage that'll help it bend a little less, but it does crease right here at the edge when you open it, so I'm going to put some tape here, and I'm going to actually just work on this and leave that clear of decoration, just because I'm concerned that the paint or whatever I put on will crack right there. So I am going to protect it a little bit with some tape, just so that I get a nice little clean edge. And I'm only working on the front right now. I'll work on the back later as a separate project. And I'm just going to basically treat it like a journal page. Just going to do some stuff and call it done. And I think that the first thing I'm going to do is get a coat of gesso on here, just so that I can tone down this really dark brown, maybe a couple of coats, and I'm hoping that will help everything to adhere nicely to the cover. I don't know if it's all going to peel up later or not, but I guess we'll find out together. So first things first, a coat of gesso. And I just want to tell you, I'm so sorry that I was late this week. I went to go have lunch with a friend yesterday, which was Friday, and I ended up spending the entire day with her. She's an old friend that I hadn't seen in a while, and we had just a fantastic time and ended up just like hanging out, and didn't realize like all of a sudden I'd been there for like 4 hours. We'd just been having lunch and talking and having a great time, and so yep, I got home, had to cook dinner, and then totally flaked on the whole Freedom Journal Friday. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry, y'all. I hope you forgive me. At least I'm getting something out there this week, so I'm forgiving myself. Moving on, and we'll do better next week. But at least we'll get this out for you here on Saturday, and we'll have it going. I can't believe that. I forgot. Okay, so quick coat of gesso. That's all I'm doing. I'm going to hit this with the heat gun and get it dry, and I'll be right back with you guys. Okay, so I want to add some collage to this journal page, partly because it'll help make everything more simple for me to create the page. Also, it is hopefully going to add some strength to the cover so that I won't have any issues with it cracking or anything, although acrylic's pretty flexible, so I'm pretty okay, but I think that the layers of collage and matte medium will add some extra strength to it. So I just pulled out, these are some of the things that I kept with me, because we all know that I am in a temporary house right now with only temporary supplies. So I have some napkins, some fabrics. So I really like this cute little tree, and I thought that would be like a nice little background element. And then the coffee, of course, like my journal has to have a coffee cup on the front. So I have this cute little piece of a napkin already cut out and separated to its final layer. And then let me see what else I'm going to add to it, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I pulled out some just random bits. I have my 2 pieces of napkin, some embossed paper, a piece of an artist paper that came in a pack from Somerset. This, I believe, is off of a paper placemat, is what the papers actually originally were. They're really cool. They feel painted. They feel like really soft, like handmade papers. I believe they're placemats. I got a bunch of big sheets in Happy Meal. I think that's what she told me they were. This just little, like, playing card that I think is just gorgeous. This little piano, but scrap little watercolor paper. This is just a little piece of a jelly print, and some of this really cool pink fibery stuff, I don't know what it's called, that Bernice sent me in Happy Meal. So I also pulled out my Tim Holtz tissue paper. Which one is this called? Postal or Postal, whatever. But anyways, I thought it'd make a cute background too. So I think I'm going to start by collaging first a piece of this down to my page. And well, that part actually kind of works for me, so that's good. I might turn it upside down to get this side. I kind of like this side better. I am going to actually glue it down and then cut it afterwards down to size, I think. I think that would be the easiest way to do this. So, matte medium. Actually, I think I'm just going to squirt it on there. So some matte medium and my glue brush. Let me get the water out of it because there's a lot. Let me just get that spread over the entire page. That's not enough. And I like to use matte medium. I'm trying to talk more about my products, so bear with me. Folks have asked. I like to use matte medium for my thinner papers, especially like tissue papers and such. It's just easier for me to use, for starters, and it is actually, you know, yeah, I can't talk and do this at the same time, apparently. I find that because it's thinner, it dries so much faster, and that pleases me a lot when I'm working on a page and I'm trying to do a lot of collage and I need it to hurry up and be ready to go with the next layers. So I like the fact that the matte medium, being thin, helps it dry faster. So that is a significant part of why I choose matte medium over matte gel when it comes to these thinner papers. So some of this is not well coated. And then I'm just going to go over the top with another layer and really saturate this paper so that it soaks in and like just is totally encased in this matte medium. I actually had somebody ask me what was matte gel, so I have some right here. Where's it at? Here we go. What is gel, you know, the matte gel? It's soft gel in matte. Soft gel means that it doesn't hold a really heavy peak or brush strokes. It'll hold some, but not too much really. And these are gels that are, you know, can be used to mix with your paints to create different textures, or, you know, like if you want your paint to hold brush strokes, you can get it to do that by using like a heavy gel mixed with your paint. So these are additives that you can mix into mix in with your acrylic paints, or use on top of or underneath of your acrylic paints to create certain effects. Pretty much what all mediums do. And there's like so many kinds, and mine is dusty. Look at that, it's gross. So we recommend for our journaling class for JKS that you have matte gel as a minimum, and matte medium, which is the fluid matte medium, as a secondary option for your thinner papers if you like to use it for collage. Definitely you can use whatever it is that you want. You can use PVA glue. You can add water to your PVA glue to thin it down a little bit. You can use, what is it, Mod Podge. You can use any of that stuff. I personally prefer to use acrylic products just so that everything that I have is done in the acrylics, but it's, again, completely up to you. There's nothing that says you have to go out and spend all the money on these things, but I like them. That's not wanting to tear. I thought once I got it wet it would tear a little bit easily, but it doesn't want to, and I don't want to pull it off the page. So I will prop this up. Always remember to lift and prop your pages so that your page doesn't stick to your guard paper, or at least not the extra paint on your guard paper. So I'm going to hit this with the heat gun, and then I'll come back to you when it's dry and we'll move on. But I just did want to just say, you know, if you can't do the acrylic mediums, matte medium, or whatever, use what you have. Use what works for you. Again, I do recommend the gel as a first option to buy because you can use it on your thinner papers, and it will also help to encase some thicker papers or heavier items into your page. You can even encase beads or coins or keys or whatever using the gel medium as your adhesive. So that's kind of a cool thing if you're planning on doing something like that. So that would be a first choice if you're buying one. And then you can always do the matte medium later if you want to. But anyways, I'll be right back. Okay, so this is all dry now, and I'm going to add some color. Oh, I did tear off the edges, and you can see, well, this part wasn't there already, but part of this tore off the paper. It's not terribly noticeable because of its location, and then I kind of like where the gesso pulled off with it, and you kind of get to see that dark underneath. That's kind of cool. So I'm leaving that, and it just kind of, the tissue tore where it wasn't sticking, so I just went ahead and tore it off and applied a little bit more matte medium to make sure those edges were well stuck. Okay, so interrupted by a phone call from the husband. When he calls, I kind of drop everything and answer and talk to him. So, sorry, I was cut off in the middle of whatever it was that I was saying. I don't even remember at this point. Something I think about having torn off the edge and making sure that the gel medium, or the matte medium, covered all the edges of the tissue. So I went ahead and I applied some paint, of course using my favorite colors of Distress paint. I figured it's my cover, I should have my favorite colors on it. I might brighten up some of this pink and the turquoise before I move on. And then I'm going to go in with some collage, a lot of which will probably end up being sped through because it's kind of boring to watch me collage. Okay, that's enough, I think, for now. So I'm going to hit this with a heat gun and dry it, and then I'm going to add some collage elements, and I'll speed through that part, and then I will be back with whatever the next step's going to be. Okay, so I'm going to jump in here and talk to you for a minute. I don't know if you noticed my gel medium. I usually buy in larger tubs and then put into smaller tubs. And so I usually buy my soft gel in like a 16 or larger ounce jar, but I save my 8-ounce jar to add it to. And then for my travel journal, I often will put stuff into these smaller jars. These are obviously not as airtight as I would like them to be, because as you could see as I was working with this, my soft gel is really thick and really sticky when it really should be this softer consistency. So I'm switching to that, and then I decided to wipe off some of the gel where it was too thick, and the paint is still a little bit damp underneath of that, and then if you apply a wet acrylic product on top of a not fully dry acrylic product, it will destabilize that first layer and you can lift it off. So when I wipe the wet matte medium or matte gel off of the semi-dry acrylic paint underneath, it comes off, which actually I think looks kind of cool. So now I'm doing it in a couple of other places, but I wanted to stop and tell you what I was doing and why I was doing it, how it happens, why it happens, all that interesting stuff. So over here I actually have some somewhat dry paint again, and I'll just apply a little bit of that medium and it will wipe it away. See what happens. Obviously this was a little bit more dry, which is fine. It's still, I like the way it's looking. I just kind of like that little bit of interest that provides, I think. At least I think it's interesting. Okay, so back to my collaging. If you're going to ask me about my tool, it is just a catalyst type tool, which generally just means something to manipulate your acrylics with. And this one's just a spreading tool on a handle, which I love for doing my collaging and my matte gel, because it really allows me to apply it very thin and with a smoother over layer of medium than I get with the palette knife. So, alright, back to collage. Okay, so my collage is still sticky in some areas and dry in others, but it's good enough to move forward. I'm going to be using some gesso just to calm down some of the craziness that's going on here. Although I like Krazy, I still feel like your eye just needs a little place to rest sometimes. So I'm going to apply some gesso, and I'm just going to apply it with my fingers and just maybe in some random places. I'm using gesso because it's got tooth for starters, so it'll help if I want to put anything over top of it. Also because it is a little bit see-through when it dries. Like if you don't apply it terribly thick, you can usually see through a coat of gesso to what's underneath just a little bit, and so I don't want to cover everything completely. I just want to, you know, again, just calm some of this down and get a little bit of white in here, and I like gesso for that purpose. If you don't have gesso, obviously, you know, white paint would work. I mean, it's not necessary that you have gesso. It's a good product to get if you don't have it already, just because, you know, it's an awesome base. It's a good use for white. It is not a replacement for white paint because it is gesso. It's a primer, it's a base. It's not necessarily always a good replacement for white paint if that's, you know, something that you're looking for. So I think I'm going to do just a little section here in the middle, and I might use a wet brush just to get that thinned and applied over here, just to kind of whitewash this a little bit. There we go. I'm going to be putting my title in this area, or around this area somewhere. Going to be writing the words Freedom Journal on this. This is kind of why I left some of the collage open right here. I didn't put a lot of stuff over the tissue paper. I actually kind of like that whitewashed look a lot. Okay, I kind of like how that's looking, so I'm going to stop there. I'm going to hit this with the heat gun again. I'll be right back. Okay, so my next step on this would be to generally go around the edges with like a Stabilo pencil to darken the edges, but that's a water-soluble product that stays water-soluble, and this is my journal cover, so I want it to be permanent, and I don't want to have to spray it with fixative. So I'm going to use my Inktense pencil in black. If you're not familiar with Inktense pencils, they are a water-soluble pencil. They also come in Inktense blocks, which is an ink block form. They are water-soluble. You can apply them and activate them with water. Once you activate them with water and they dry, they're permanent. So that's kind of a really cool thing about them. You can use the blocks practically like watercolors. They're not obviously exactly the same. They have some really nice vibrant colors. I think the colors actually get more vibrant after you activate them with water than if you just leave them in pencil form. But I like the fact that I can wet this, and then once it dries, my journal, it's not, even if I touch it, it's going to be permanent, so I'm not going to have to worry about it. So that's what I'm going to do next, is just go along the edges, and then I'll just get it wet with a little bit of water on a water brush. I always do this, not always, but a lot of times will frame my pages with a darker edge, whether it's black, gray, brown, blue, a darker color of something that's being used on the page to coordinate. I just think it gives the page kind of a finished look in my mind, and I like that look. So this definitely has to get activated, and I have almost no water in my water brush, so I'll get some water in this. I'll be right back.